Hey, this is Angii Trapier with Sky Realty, and I'm here with John Brockbank with Aerolite Consulting. I've asked him to come over and help me out today. How are you doing today, John?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah. So what does your company do?
So we do home inspections as well as a lot of environmental consulting. So we come in and test people's homes, inspect them, make sure they're safe, and make sure there's no surprises.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I've had a few questions from my clients pop up occasionally about how to prepare to sell their home. And John has come up with 5 things that will help homeowners prepare their homes to be sold. So let's just go over some of those 5 things.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would start off with is to check for leaks. It's a really easy thing to do. As home inspectors, we'll put your house under worst case scenario environments, filling up the sinks completely and then just letting them drain. If you do that, you'll oftentimes catch these easy leaks that you can repair before the house is even listed. So it's a very simple, definitely worth doing.
That's a great idea. Yeah. I've had a few leaks myself and they're no fun. What's the second thing?
Second thing would just be to take into consideration how old the house is. And so you are going to have, older homes, outlets that aren't grounded, electrical panels that might be older, and we can maybe look at those later on today.
Okay, great. And then what else? What's the third thing?
So foundation issues are obviously a big concern to a lot of people. So I would recommend walking around the perimeter of your basement, of your crawl space, and looking to see if there's any evidence of past water intrusion. Usually it's pretty easy, whether it's staining, discolorations, mold obviously is pretty apparent. And if you find any of those, identifying what may be the source of that moisture and trying to correct it.
Cracks in the foundation or?
Cracks in the foundation, even rain gutters that aren't draining properly, landscaping that's sloping towards the house instead of away from it, those are big ones. Window wells that have tightly compacted dirt instead of gravel, that's a big one.
Oh, wow.
So there's a handful of things that are pretty easy to fix that a lot of people aren't really aware of. And so if you just sort of know what you're looking for, it's pretty easy to identify what could be a problem or what is a problem currently.
Well, that's great to know. And then is there anything else?
I do always recommend just looking at your appliances. Looking at your furnace, your water heater, and seeing, first off, what their age is. All appliances have a expected life. Here in Utah, water heaters, for example, typically 8 to 12 years is about average for a water heater here. So if yours is at age 11, there's probably a good chance that it's getting towards the end of its useful life. Another thing with appliances is to just always keep in mind that regular maintenance is always a good idea. And if you're selling your house in particular, it's always, I would think, handy to be able to give a receipt to a potential customer, potential buyer, showing that it's been serviced recently.
That's great. Yeah. Even just receipts for the appliances.
Absolutely.
So they have them all together. So that's great.
Yeah.
So John's going to show us, there's actually a final thing that I think is really important, and this is something I do for my clients. I actually look up their zip code and see if there's a high instance of radon gas that's been detected in homes in that area. So John, what do you do? Do you test for radon?
All the time.
And why is radon important?
So radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that basically comes up from the soil, and because it's radioactive can potentially cause lung cancer. It's the second leading cause of lung cancer behind smoking. An estimated 21,000 people a year die from lung cancer caused from radon. So it's really common. We're breathing it in right now. It's just a matter of how high those levels are in a home. Here in Utah, it's usually about 1 in 5, 1 in 6 homes will have elevated levels.
Wow. And what is an elevated level?
So the EPA says that any homes that have greater than 4 picocuries per liter of radon in the air should have a mitigation system installed. And that's basically just a fancy measurement. Most homes here in Utah have between a 2 and a 4 of radon levels. Even at those lower levels, the EPA still says you should consider putting in a mitigation system. But I think most people are comfortable with levels that low. But once you get above a 4, probably a good opportunity, a good idea to put in a system.
Okay, and you test for that, right?
Yeah. We use radon mitigation or radon monitors similar to this. Basically, just leave it on a property, come back in a couple days, pick it up, and it gives us a an hourly measurement of radon levels as well as an average reading that we basically go off of and make recommendations as far as whether a mitigation system is necessary or not.
That's great. And usually radon occurs, I guess, in its highest form in the basements. Is that correct? Basements
Typically,
of
yes.
homes?
Yes.
Typically? Okay.
Yeah, basements and crawl spaces. There is a lot of misconceptions about radon. Even homes without basements can still have elevated levels of radon. They're usually not going to be as likely to have it, but they still can. Even new construction can have radon levels. It has nothing to do with the age of the home. So yeah, it can be anywhere.
Okay, well that's awesome. That's good to know. So that is something, and a lot of people don't know about the risks of radon, or that gas can be present in their home. So if you have people living in your basement right now, children, it's super important to have a radon test done. So we're going to run to my electrical panel and check that out and see what John says about that. We're downstairs in my basement. This is full disclosure now. So we're going to look at my electrical panel, and John's going to talk about that. So I'm going to flip this around and show you the electrical panel.
Well, Angie, you've got a square D panel. This is definitely an upgraded panel to what you'd find in a lot of homes. Homes built before like 1985 are pretty common to have a couple different brands. There are a few brands that if you have in your home do automatically throw out some red flags. Federal Pacific brands, a handful of those were recalled due to issues where they weren't tripping as intended. Zinsco panels also had some issues, and so if you have either one of those panels, those will probably be flagged by a home inspector that comes in through your house. Looking at the panel here, the things that I look at are, first off, are the breakers the same brand, same manufacturer as the panel itself? In this case they are, which is good, but oftentimes, particularly with older homes, you'll have mismatched breakers. The concern or the problem with that is that they don't always line up just right. They don't snap in place just right, so people have had to modify the breakers, which can be a hazard, which can be a danger. Inside the panel here itself, I don't recommend people go pulling the breaker apart and stuff, but they should be aware that there's oftentimes issues with it's called double tapping, multiple wires going into a single lug, lug on a breaker, or inside the neutral bar is what it's called. So they'll have multiple wires going into that single lug when it's really only designed for that single wire. That's a pretty common one, but it's also a pretty easy one to fix. Just like servicing your appliances, it's probably never a bad idea to consider having an electrician come in and do a little evaluation on your property, double checking your outlets, looking at your panel, and see if there's things that are a safety concern that could be done to not only make it safer and more easy to sell, but also to make it more comfortable.
Awesome. And John, you not only do inspections once a buyer makes an offer on a home, but you also do pre-inspections on homes, correct? When a seller is getting ready to put their house on the market?
We do, definitely.
Great. Well, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.